Good morning and welcome to the Enactus India Online Convention and Competition 2020. There is no better way to start your weekend, so thank you for joining us this beautiful Saturday morning. I am Shmita Ramkumar, reaching out to you from Mumbai, and joining me as my co-host is Anirudh Goel, an Enactus India alumnus from Delhi.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. Most Enactus members will definitely agree with me when I say there is indeed no better way to start a weekend. Actually, I'm quite nostalgic today as I think about my college days where most weekends started and ended with Enactus.
Well, we've said the word Enactus so many times now. Maybe we should tell the non-Enactus viewers what Enactus really is?
Absolutely. Well, we've asked Enactus students and faculty to tell us what Enactus means to them. So, in their words, here is what Enactus means. Enactus is the world's largest experiential learning platform. Enactus means social impact.
Enactus stands for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Enactus is my one word synonym for teamwork, leadership, skill building, positive impact, and a whole lot of fun.
Enactus is an emotion. Enactus is a lifestyle. Enactus is my go to network of friends, mentors, and 2 a.m. chai buddies.
Entrepreneurial action for others creates a better world for us all. We are Enactus. On that note, I would like to welcome the President and Chief Training Officer of Enactus India to share some of Enactus India's programs and impact with us.
Good morning. Warm welcome to the 2020 Enactus India online competition, convention, and the fun and the celebrations. But before we start, let us offer our prayers, let us express our gratitude, and let us re-look at our purpose. Let us offer our prayers. Even as we speak, thousands of Indians, millions across the world, are suffering from the pandemic. Let us pray for their quick recovery. Millions of workers in India, tens of millions across the world, have had their lives and livelihoods impacted. Let us pray that their lives and livelihoods come back to normal as quick as possible. All of you students, Enactus students and non-Enactus students, your studies, your classes have been disrupted. Let us pray that your studies and classes come back to normal as quickly as possible. Let us also express our gratitude. Thousands of doctors around the world, tens of thousands of medical staff, municipal workers, government officials, company officials are helping to keep us safe and bring back the country and society to normal. Let us offer our gratitude to them. All of you students are doing an amazing work to help the underprivileged. Thank you, students. Enactus mentors and faculty have been helping the students implement the social initiatives. Thank you. Without our partners like KPMG, Unilever, Alana Group, Wilo, Walmart, and many others, the Enactus community cannot function. So thank you, our partners. And I also have one personal thank you to the Enactus India Advisory Board, which is chaired by Arun Kumar, and of which Mr. Sanjiv Mehta is a member. My personal thanks to you for your guidance and your counsel at all times. Let us also take this opportunity to remember our purpose. Our purpose comes in two ways: to create a better India. Last year, 4,700 students across 110 colleges worked on 250 initiatives, social initiatives, and positively impacted 780,000 lives. That's creating a better world today. But all our Enactus students, since 2003, 17 years back, if you look ahead 17 years, 2037, 2040, you will be CEOs and CXOs and entrepreneurs and IAS officers and even politicians or doctors and lawyers. And when you govern India and lead your companies, please remember what you have learned in Enactus and take your Enactus lessons as you become leaders. Before I request Mr. Arun Kumar to formally declare the event open, just one watch out. All of us suffer from internet challenges. Okay, so it may be possible that one or some of us may have some internet challenges during the show. Please bear with us. We have backup plans so that we can hope that show continues. But with that, now I have great pleasure and great honor to invite the chairman of the Enactus India Advisory Board and also the chairman and CEO of KPMG in India, Mr. Arun Kumar, to formally declare the competition and the convention open. Thank you so much. Over to you, Arun.
No, thank you, Devdeep. Thank you, Devdeep, Smita, Anirudh. Thank you to all those who have worked tirelessly on this program. It's great to be connecting with you all virtually. It's my privilege to serve as the chairman of the National Advisory Council of Enactus India, along with such a distinguished leader as my friend Sanjiv Mehta. My friend KPMG is honored to be involved with Enactus and the World Cup since the very first World Cup event in London in 2001. And I also want to share the joy of my many colleagues who mentor so many of the students and entrepreneurs of Enactus. So let me congratulate Devdeep Porkayasta, President of Enactus India, and Smita Ramkumar for another successful year. Devdeep's passion for the goals of Enactus and his ingenuity working with Smita in navigating new and challenging situations is a model for us all. And with each passing year, the talent at Enactus is getting even better. Next and most important, I want to congratulate all the teams that are present here today and will be competing through the coming week. Your ideas, your energy, and your passion are nothing short of inspiring. Your commitment to apply entrepreneurship to solve many of India's basic problems, from water to sanitation, is truly uplifting. And the unique challenges brought on by the COVID pandemic will demand that the country's best minds, like you, collaborate to create innovative and sustainable solutions. As happens every year, this year's competition will help us select the team who will represent India at the Enactus World Cup, which of course this year will be held virtually. In total, 86 teams expressed intent to participate in the Enactus competition, including 19 teams who are taking part in the new Rookie League. Last year, a very bright team from IIT Delhi emerged as the winners globally for their initiatives, which were Nirmalya and Arth, focused on sustainable sources of energy. In 2019-2020, Enactus India mentioned, as he mentioned, mentored over 4,700 students in 270 projects, impacting almost 800,000 lives across the country. These projects are contributing towards the achievement of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals in several ways. And let me just call out 3 examples. Sri Ram College of Commerce's Project ASPA aims to provide access to clean drinking water at affordable rates to thousands of people, thus leading to a reduction in waterborne diseases and an increase in life expectancy. Delhi College of Arts and Commerce's Project Talim aims to provide access to primary education for the refugee community through a self-sustaining social enterprise. HR College of Commerce and Economics Project Inayat aims to change the reality of menstrual health in India. They've developed simple, reusable menstrual hygiene kits, which are eco-friendly and economical. So I look forward to many more such innovative ideas this year. My best wishes to everybody participating, all the participating teams, and I have great pleasure declaring the Enactus India Online Convention and Competition 2020 open. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun. If you are in a physical setup, we'd probably be all screaming with joy. But now we're in an online competition and convention. So let us scream within our hearts. Before we get into the first event, I'd just like to offer some perspective on how we have structured the next 7 days. If you recall our purpose, we want to build a better India, but we can't do it unless our students evolve to be responsible future leaders. But for our students to develop as future leaders, we need the support and the mentoring and the coaching and a passing on a little bit of their experience and insights and tips from the current business leaders, such as Arun Kumar and Sanjiv Mehta, to the next generation. And to that intent, through the year, we do a lot of activities. We do innovation workshop, we do incubation workshops, we do mentoring calls, we do field trips. Whenever you have a problem, there is a faculty advisor or a mentor who is helping you. And that happens 24/7. However, this is a very special occasion where all of us together from across India, across colleges, across teams, we have a chance to meet and listen to each other. So what we'll do between this Saturday today and next Saturday till we close and announce the results is we'll have 2 work streams. One is the competition itself, where the 86 projects will be showcased, and of that will emerge semi-finalists, finalists, and the ultimate winner. But we also have 4 opportunities for our students to dialogue with the most eminent current leaders. So today, we have the future of leadership. On Monday, we have the future of innovation and entrepreneurship. On Thursday, we have future of skills development and recruitment. And on the closing day, we have some global leaders talking to us. So today is the first of the dialogues. We call it the 33-minute dialogue. And for the first dialogue, we'll have Mr. Arun Kumar, who you have just heard, Chairman and CEO of KPMG in India. And joining him in the broadcast will be Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, Chairman and MD of Hindustan Unilever. And dialoguing with them will be one of our Enactus students, Ibadat Jishtu, and one of our Enactus alumnus, who will be Vedika Tibarwala. So with that, let me hand over to Vedika and Ibadat for a wonderful dialogue with Arun and Sanjiv. Good luck.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, thank you, Mr. Arun Kumar and Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, for being with us here today. There are so many Enactus students who are currently watching us, and I know that they have so much to learn from both of you. Enactus has been an unimaginably big part of my life. In my 3 years at Enactus SRCC and now as an Enactus alum, till date, Enactus is teaching me new skills and building new memories for me, today being one of the most special ones. Out of the many skills that Enactus has taught me, one of the most valuable ones to me has been how to lead with grace, how to lead with humility and gratitude and forgiveness, backed with determination and courage. And it's taught me how to lead in the service of others. And on that note, we would love to hear from both of you, your takes on leadership. Arun sir, I've been part of many competition teams, wondering what questions you're going to pose to us during the Enactus national competitions. And it's pretty surreal for me to have the roles reversed today. And so as one of the most inspirational leaders yourself, what is your take on leadership today? And do you think that there are any key leadership values or traits?
Sanjay, shall I go? So first of all, so Vedika, you actually captured some of the key aspects of leadership to my mind: grace, humility, and courage. I mean, those are so important and so well captured. But let me give you a couple of other thoughts as well. I think there are 2 aspects to leadership in my view. One is the traits of a leader, and the other is the whole system of leadership. In some sense, leadership as a system should be one that moves people towards a common goal. So the Chinese philosopher Lao Tse said that a great king or a great leader is one where nobody knows who the king or the leader is. People do their work and they feel it's their work, although the leader has set the direction, which I think is a very interesting description of a successful leader, which applies to people like Sanjiv and me who are leading organizations. We want to empower our people so that they believe it's their work, while at the same time, we, with their help, set the direction. But then coming to the qualities of leaders, I think today people are looking for leaders they can trust, for leaders who care, and leaders who give strength and energy. These three aspects of providing energy, providing care, and providing trust, in my view, are very key. But coming to the caring part, this is the emotional part. So you've got the intellectual part of leadership. There's also the emotional part, what's called the emotional quotient, which I feel connects back to what you said about grace and humility. And I'm reminded of a story that I heard from actually former President Clinton. So I happened to be at a dinner sitting next to him, which was a great honor and quite special. And so I just started engaging him and talking about what is it important, what are the important qualities to be a successful president. And he related this great story to me. He said, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was one of the greatest American presidents, was elected, he called on Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, one of the great Supreme Court justices of America, as a courtesy call. So after he left, somebody asked Justice Holmes, "What do you think of President Roosevelt?" And Justice Holmes said, "A second-rate intellect, but a first-rate temperament." So temperament often trumps intellect. So I want to share those thoughts on the qualities of a leader, but let me turn it over to Sanjiv.
Yeah, fabulous. First, good morning, everyone. Delighted to be on this platform and sharing the platform with my good friend Arun. Many of you may not know, Arun is not only the CEO of KPMG, but a highly experienced leader who has worked for the governments and in the private sector. He is very erudite, a very fertile thinker, and above all, a wonderful human being. So absolutely delighted. And if I may just, Vedika, build on what Arun has said, I'll again pick up another American. And this is a gentleman called General Colin Powell. He's the one who led US to a very decisive victory during the Gulf War. And he articulated leadership in a very simple way. He said leadership is the art of accomplishing more than the science of management says is possible. Yeah. So what really this comes down to, a leader is a person who is, he knows the way, he goes the way, he leads the way, shows the way. He's a leader of business and he's a leader of people. He knows what to do and he knows how to do. This is what I would add to what Arun has talked about leadership.
Sanjeev sir, if I could ask you another question on leadership. What do you think? Sanjeev sir, what do you think? What does it take for someone to become a leader?
Yeah, first, I come from a very clear school of thought that many people ask this question many times: is a leader born, or is a leader made? Yeah. Now, every human being has certain attributes, certain capabilities, certain natural talent. But like most other things, you can improve on them, you can build on them. So let us start with the premise that everyone can become a good leader. Yeah. So the question that you had was, how does one become a leader, right? And leadership is not just being at the helm of an organization. Leadership could be at every level. It could be even at a societal level. Yeah, it's not just about politicians or business leaders. You could be a good leader of your residential society, for instance. So when I look at leadership, I think first very important bit is you need to understand what your purpose in life is. And I think it was Mark Twain who rightly articulated that the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you discovered what your purpose is. The second very important bit for a leader is you need to follow your passion. Passion is something which is difficult to describe but easy to feel. It is the electricity which runs through you. It is what makes you get up in the morning excited to do what you have set out to do. The third important bit is linked to purpose are your values. Yeah. Now, in India, it is so important for us to inculcate the right values in the leaders right from the initial stage. And remember something, always pursue the harder right over the easier wrong. The fourth important bit for a leader, I would say, is never be afraid of failures. Just like fire is the test of gold, similarly, is failure makes a man. Failure makes a leader. The next, I would say, very important is, now I've got a trademark for this word. It is called ambition. Ambition is humility and ambition. Yeah. Now, when you have ambition, you can overcome the constraint of resources. And if you embellish it with humility, then you have got absolutely a fabulous combination called ambition. The next I would urge you is that many of you, young minds, with the world at your feet, looking ahead, and some of you might get into becoming an entrepreneur, some might get into corporate sector, some might get into government, is I would say focus on creating value and don't chase valuation. Very often we fall into this trap. You want to become a billionaire, so you want to really chase valuation if you become an entrepreneur, but chase value. Once you create value, valuation does happen. And last but not the least, which is very relevant for all of you, that many times people think that once I graduate, that's the end of my education. No, you have to remain a student all your life. And only when you remain a student all your life, you keep developing yourself and you prevent yourself from getting fossilized. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I think we all learned a new word, ambition, today.
I love that word, ambition.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love that word. I totally agree with everything Sanjiv said so eloquently. The whole idea of purpose is about something that's above oneself. So it seems to me that having things you care for more than for yourself, that you're willing to go out of your way to do because of your passion, because of your motivation, is one of the distinguishing factors. It's that which makes people follow other people. Because you don't want to follow somebody who's a purely selfish person trying to meet selfish ends. You want to follow somebody who has a higher vision or a higher purpose. So I just want to echo the points that Sanjiv made.
Thank you so much for that, sir. And thank you for everyone for joining us today. I'm Ibadat Jishtu and I'm a management student at Punjab University and a very proud Enactus member. My 3-year-long association with Enactus has not only helped me grow as an individual, but also in gaining a better perspective about life. Having said that, I'd like to direct my question to you, Arun sir. Life has its good and bad times. How do you, as a leader, do things differently when everything is smooth sailing versus when facing a crisis, for example, the pandemic situation that everyone is going through today?
Well, with smooth sailing is always the easy part. It's a time that when you go through a crisis that that people, organizations are tested. And I think this is a time in which, as a leader of an organization, one has to show a steady hand, or one has to build confidence, and one has to share information in such a way that people can believe what you say. So, in my view, this is a time in which we've got to be clear in our communications, got to be clear in the fact that we care for our people. I think that's really important. This is a time when there's a lot of insecurity. So conveying caring, genuine caring, conveying the plan to work through an uncertain situation, knowing that nobody knows that there's still a lot of uncertainty, but being open about it and conveying those plans. I think those are really important. But most important, I think people should know that they care. And going back to what Sanjiv said about Colin Powell, one of the things I admire about military leaders is their goal is to bring everybody home. They go into battle, but they want to make sure that all their people come back home. That caring, I think, is really important.
Thank you, sir. I think your words echo the statement I once heard that smooth seas never make a good sailor. And my next question would be to Sanjiv sir. Arun sir talked about living in the COVID times. And so what about after? Like, what about the much awaited post-COVID world? Sanjiv sir, what would your advice be to students and young graduates for that time?
Yeah. So first is, I firmly believe that as a society, we will be able to overcome this crisis. Yeah. So I think let's start with that. And if I just take a pause and come back into the crisis, I think one of the things what a leader needs to do, what I call it brutal optimism. Yeah. What is brutal optimism? First is you need to paint the reality, not tell people falsehoods, but at the same time, you need to instill hope in the people. You need to indicate to them that we shall be together be able to overcome the crisis. And we will be, because of the capabilities that we possess as humankind, as a society, or as a corporation, we will be able to overcome this crisis, right? The other for a leader is, while you focus on the current issues and you use a microscope with intense magnification to look at the challenges and ask yourself how you would be able to overcome. But at the same time, the job of the leader is to use a telescope, consider opportunities into the future. Yeah, you cannot ignore that. You know, the Chinese are not the flavor of the day right now. But in the Chinese language, the word crisis is broken up into two characters: danger and opportunity. Right? And you have to understand that with every crisis, there is an opportunity lurking in the corner. So while on one hand, you're using a microscope and trying to find out what are the real crises, how you bring the company, your institution, the society out of it. The other is use the telescope and see what are the opportunities lurking and how do you ready your organization to pursue the opportunities that are waiting you. Right? So remember things.
Yeah.
Microscope and a telescope. Very simple.
Thank you so much for that, sir. Enactus has a lot of female members, but we do not see many female leaders in different fields across all the countries on this earth. How would you like to what is your take on it, and what can we do to develop more female leaders? If we could begin with Arun, sir, please.
The question is to Sanjiv or to me?
To you, Arun.
To Arun.
Yes, okay. Yeah. No, I think this is a big issue, especially here in India. We have to have more women leaders. If you just look around the world today, the countries that have been run by women, like whether it's New Zealand or Germany, they have done much better with this pandemic than the countries that have been run by men. Even in India, a country with a woman health minister has done better than many other states. So certainly women have proven themselves in so many ways. But I think we have to be very intentional here. I think it's a problem that I'm personally quite seized with. I think Sanjiv has done a much better job than many other organizations in India and the world. But it's an area where we have to deliberately, intentionally push women and encourage them and make sure that we go out of our way to give them opportunities. I think there's also a role at home. I think in India, women actually are doing double duty. They're carrying the whole load at home, and then they have to carry, if you're a professional, the load at work as well. And there's a bit of an education that has to happen with Indian men as well to ensure that their spouses, their daughters are really empowered, enabled to reach their full potential. But let me turn to Sanjiv, who would know a lot more about this than I do.
Yeah, thank you, Arun. I'm very passionate about this subject and diversity and inclusiveness. Now, in my family, I'm surrounded by three wonderful women. My wife and our twin daughters, Nana and Roshni. Yeah. And I've got many stories to talk about my influence in life. Yeah. My grandmother, my parents, my wife. And, historically, I think as a society, we have done injustice to women. We have not given them their fair share. And we have to correct the historical wrong. And I believe that there is nothing in the world which women can't do. Yeah, I remember about in 2015 when our daughter graduated from MIT. There can't be a more tech school than an MIT. And in that class, graduating class of 2015, 49% were women. And if you look at US today, nearly 2/3 of the doctoral students are women. And we started this journey in India in 2010 when 18% of our managerial workforce were women. And now we are talking about 42% of our managerial workforce being women. And in another 2-3 years, we will have a parity organization where 50% at least of our managerial workforce across functions would be women. Now, first and foremost, there is a very strong business case. There is enough of empirical evidence that when you have more women in the organization, you are more innovative, you have a better culture, and you have a better performance. Yeah. So as an organization, we have to ensure that we have the necessary hardware, we have the focus, we have to remove the biases, we have to remove the stereotypes that are there in the people. But when you pursue this agenda, it's very important to understand that it should not be at the cost of performance. Even women do not want to be given favors, right? They want to be given their fair share, but they don't want to be given any favors. And so it is like when you talk about diversity and inclusiveness, and the best example is diversity is about inviting a woman to a party, and inclusiveness is making them dance. Yeah. So it's not just about diversity. It has to be inclusiveness. And remember something, when we build our organization and we want to be known as one of the most diverse and inclusive organization in the world, and globally Unilever has achieved parity. Yeah. And we don't want women to act as men to succeed in the corporate world. We want women to be women and bring their true self to the business. That's what we aim to create, and that's what we are pursuing. And look at our organization. The business case is so simple. Yeah, 70% of our consumers are women, and 80% of the decisions on what to buy, whether it's beauty, personal care, home care, foods, refreshments, are taken by women. So why should we not represent the consumer base of the country? That's the business case. And there is huge amount of data to prove to you that if in India, we are able to up the game, forget parity. If in India, if we are just able to pull up women in terms of the working women to close to the best performing nation in Asia, our GDP will go up with several points, GDP growth rate. Now that's the potential. So I think every organization, every society should pursue the diversity and inclusive agenda.
Right. So we have a lot of students who are viewing us today, and many of them will be joining companies soon. And these might be smaller companies or larger companies which do not have a very diverse management force. So what would your advice be to those students who realize that they don't have a lot of female managers to approach or something like that? What would your advice be to them?
That's the question to me.
Yes, Sanjiv. Sorry.
All right. So I think what we need, whoever joins, and if you find that the board is not diverse, is don't run away from that company. Be a part of the change. Lead the change. You have to be, helping change that organization rather than running away from that organization. I firmly believe that being a part of the organization, you can do more changes than by being outside the organization.
I think I would say there's also personal responsibility that I would encourage women to take, which is to raise your hand. So one of the reasons why women don't get ahead as they should is because the unconscious bias. Somehow people think, well, that's not something for a woman. I'd encourage every woman, aspiring woman, to raise your hand and say, I want that assignment. I want that responsibility. Ask for it. What's the downside? The downside is you may not get it then, but people will remember and eventually you will get it. So especially for women, raise your hand.
Thank you. So you need a seat at the table to have a voice.
You will get the seat at the table if you keep...
Not necessarily. Yeah. You have to make the change widespread across the organization.
All right.
And you have to build the momentum from within.
Right. Thank you, sir.
It actually comes back to the courage that you talked about, Vedika, right in the beginning. Have the courage to ask because, you deserve it. So ask for it.
Right. So moving on from this, today everyone, like we talked about families a bit. So today everyone has multiple responsibilities and it just does not seem possible to rank them as like 1, 2, 3, 1 work, 2 family or any other way. So I'm guessing it's much more so for both of you. So Arun sir, first I'd ask you, how do you maintain this balance between your family and friends and your work?
Yeah, so each of them are very demanding. So, one of Sanjiv's twin daughters goes to the school that I went to the Sloan School at MIT. And on my very first day at the Sloan School, they said to me, you will be bombarded with a lot of work. A fire hose of information will be fed to you. And how are you going to manage through the next 2 years here? They said the answer lies in 2 words: selective neglect. Remember not to try to do everything. Learn how to neglect stuff. The converse of that is how do you prioritize. So I've learned that in a big way. At least that's how I try to live. Prioritize what's important and actively, aggressively neglect what you can leave alone. And that applies to work. So it also applies to finding time for your family and for your friends, both family and friends. I think family we naturally find time for, most of us. But it's equally important, and this is something I'd say to young people, friends are also very important because those people who are your friends today, they grow over life, they gather different experiences. And those friendships that you have now and nurture is a tremendous source of knowledge, education, support. And the third thing I'd say is prioritize, have friends and family, time for them. The third is develop some interests outside work, some things that can balance. It could be music, it could be travel, it could be reading, but it's good to have a set of interests that balance work, which will always keep pulling you in.
Right, so Sanjiv sir, in these times, especially most of the companies are working from home and everyone's separated in that sense. You don't have that much, there's no community, you aren't talking to that many people. So how are you managing that? How are you managing to stay in touch with other people to maintain your social life?
Yeah, during these times, I have seen more compassion in leaders than before. And people have been reaching out. We reach out in small teams, on individual basis, in large teams. And one thing which is very important is to keep in touch with the people and communicate relentlessly. Just think of it. Human beings are social animals. You don't want to be cooped up in your house. And whenever I speak to people, I do ask them that how many of you are keen to get back to your workplace? In the first few weeks, I think more or less people were very happy working from home. But now when I speak to people, overwhelming majority want to get back to their workplace. Yeah, because you don't want to work in splendid isolation, just staring at the screen 12 hours a day. That's not what you seek. Yeah, you want to have fun, want to have laughter, you want to go and have a cup of tea with your colleagues. So it is difficult. And it becomes more difficult because not many people have big houses in cities like Mumbai. Yeah. So you have got chores, household chores, and you may not have staff to help you. And you may have small kids. So it's kids, sometimes it is in-laws. You have work at home, and then you have high pressure work. It becomes difficult. So it's very important to reach out to people, to empathize with them, to let them speak to you, and show a massive amount of compassion.
I happen to be one of those people who can't wait to get back to work.
Yeah, you aren't alone.
Yeah.
You aren't alone.
I can't wait to get back to college.
That's true.
So unfortunately, yes, sir. Unfortunately, we have a little under 10 minutes left. So my next question is for both of you. Please, we all know that leaders were once followers. So please tell us a story of when you were a follower and achieved great results and how your leaders at that point of time motivated you. If Arun sir, you'd like to begin, please.
Sure. Well, let me give you a story of something I learned from a leader. It's not so much about what I did, but really about what I did not do. So I was 21 years old in my first job, and I worked for someone who was 36 years old at that time, Mr. Ratan Tata, who later became, of course, as everybody knows, chairman of the Tata Group. So there was some assignment that had been given, and those days everything was done by paper. And so there's a particular document, approval document that was going through many, many hands, and it had got delayed and it had caused a big problem. So a lot of people were looking for what happened. And when I looked at it, I discovered that I was the one who was sitting on this thing. And I thought, there goes the end of my career. It was one of those situations. And at the same time, it was something I could have easily covered up. Nobody would have found out. But when Mr. Tata said, what's happening here and who's actually, where is this thing stuck? I said, look, I'm the one who did not move it forward. It got delayed at my desk. And I thought that was the end of my career. But he said, Arun, I now know where you will always stand. And so he applauded me for owning up. And that was a big lesson to me. So for me, ever since then, I like to see people who are willing to take accountability. I like to encourage people to take accountability. There is no downside to owning up to your mistakes. So that was my lesson. And that's what I've tried to use in my life.
Thank you for that, sir. Sanjiv, you would like to share your experience?
Yeah, certainly. It's a very good question. I firmly believe
Thank you, sir.
To be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. Yeah. And remember something, whatever position we might have at work, we have a boss at home, right? Whom we have to follow. And even today, I might be the head of Hindustan Unilever, but I have a global CEO whom I report to. And my philosophy all these years has been very simple. I start with the premise that I have to make my boss win. I have to make him look good. So I'm not worried about what my goals are, what my targets are, what we need to do. I pursue the mission that I'll make my boss win. And there is an implicit contract. If I make him win, he in turn will look after me. So I never go to my boss and ask, when am I going to get my next job? When am I going to get a raise? Never discuss this. I always ask him, tell me, what do you want me to achieve for you? So I think it's extremely, because your people watch you very closely. If you aren't a good follower, why will they follow you? Why will they let you leave them? So I think this is again two sides of the same coin. To be an effective person, an effective leader, you have to be a good follower.
Thank you, sir. Sir, very recently I took up a small course on leadership, which talked about being a growth leader. If you could just show some light on what exactly a growth leader is and should do.
You want me to go
Arun,
first? Or
any,
Arun,
yes,
after
sir, sure, Sanjiv, sir.
let Arun.
Yeah,
Arun, please.
no, I think, yeah, sure. It's very interesting that you brought up this topic, because a lot of conversation these days is about the growth mindset. So it's a mindset of, are you stuck in the past? Are you going to do things the way you always did? Or are you willing to take those risks? And this latter category is what is now being talked about as a growth mindset. And I see that all the time. There are very many people who are unwilling to get out of their comfort zone. It's always difficult to get out of your comfort zone. It's easier to do what you're doing. And I think, especially in the time of the future when things are changing so fast, it is really important to have the preparedness and the confidence to try something that you haven't tried before. So getting out of your comfort zone, to my mind, is a very key aspect of the growth mindset. And that applies in so many different ways, whether you're trying to learn something new, whether you're trying to take on a new responsibility, or whether you're trying to be an entrepreneur and try something that other people haven't tried before. That ability to get out of your comfort zone, to my mind, is critical.
Thank you, sir. Sanjiv, sir, if you'd like to add on to that, please.
Yeah, growth is the oxygen, right? And every organization, be the country, our country feels so good when we have a good GDP growth rate. And if you have to look at a salesperson at the end of the month, from the spring in his step, you will know whether they've had a good growth or they've not had a good growth. And whether it's the adrenaline, whether it is the confidence, all that gets impacted with the kind of growth you have delivered. And things, at the end of the day, is we are meant to grow. Otherwise, you will never be static. You either get left behind or you move forward. And it's all about the mindset first, like Arun absolutely rightly said. Before you win in the marketplace, you have to win the battle of mind. And once you start believing, then you will find ways and means of growing. So we always look at great leaders. Leaders come with the premise, whether it's a pandemic, whether there is a shutdown, we will find ways and means of growing. That's what they pursue.
Thank you so much, sir. If it was up to me, we would want this to continue for as long as possible. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. I'd like to thank Mr. Arun and Mr. Sanjiv for joining us today. I'd also like to thank everyone else who joined us. I'm sure we've all taken something with us today. And thank you to Enactus India for this opportunity. Over to Vedika.
Oh, such a pleasure. Thank you for inviting us.
Vedika.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Sanjiv sir and Arun sir. Talking to you, hearing your experiences, and simply being part of a conversation with you has been among my most special milestones that Enactus has created for me. And so thank you, Enactus India, also for making this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Over to you, Shmita ma'am. Thank you.
Hello again, everyone. I am Shmita.
And I'm Anirudh, and this time we are not just a voice. Well, this is not my bias speaking, but that 33-minute dialogue on leadership was the most impactful dialogue I may have ever come across. Humbleship and selective neglect are the two concepts I'll never forget. So, Shmita, what's next? All this seems quite new to me, the whole virtual showcase and the competition. I'm curious as well.
As we heard earlier, we have a total of 86 Enactus college teams competing this year. That is a record high number for all of us at Enactus India. All these 86 teams have submitted their project presentations and reports to Enactus India already. Each of these project presentations tell a beautiful story of how these Enactus teams have gone above and beyond to use the power of innovation and the power of social entrepreneurship to positively impact their communities. These teams have been divided into 15 virtual competition rooms that we call leagues in the opening round of competition, of which 3 of these are specially for our new teams. We have close to 100 business leaders serving as opening round judges this year, and based on their cumulative scores and ranks, 24 teams will move forward to the semi-final round, which is between the 3rd and the 6th. And from there onwards, we will eventually move to having 4 finalist teams who will participate in the final round between the 6th and the 8th. One of these 4 finalist teams will be chosen as the Enactus India National Champion for 2020. Well, Anirudh, you've been there, so what was it like?
Well, yes, I've been there. Sweet memories. Our team won the Enactus Nationals in 2018 and represented India at the Enactus World Cup in Silicon Valley. Well, people and students joining across the globe, coming together, and what was uniting them was Enactus. So, for everyone watching, please do join us in our social impact journey over the next 7 days. All our team's project presentation are showcased on a project showcase portal. They're about 12 minutes or so please do stop by our project showcase at india.enactus.org.
And do join us to know who the 24 semi-finalists are on Monday, August 3rd at 6:30 p.m. right here on enactusindia2020.org. We will have another very exciting 33-minute dialogue on the future of innovation and entrepreneurship with our Enactus students, alumni, and 3 other innovation and entrepreneurship stalwarts. We will have, so please block your calendar for Monday, 3rd August at 6:30 p.m. And until then, do take care and have a great weekend.
Thank you for joining us and see you on August 3rd. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.